Hi, I'm Spring Cheng. I'm the co-founder of Resonance Path Institute in Seattle, Washington. Today, I'm going to talk about a workshop that I'm bringing to the Climate Change and Consciousness Conference in Findhorn. The workshop is titled as Resonating with the Field of Gaia, Becoming a Human Acupuncture Point. Acupuncture is an Eastern Asian holistic medicine modality. It has becoming popular in the West in recent years. However, its central principle, resonance, is rarely known or understood in English-speaking cultures. Today, I want to explore how the principle of resonance might be crucial in facing the challenge associated with climate change. First, I'd like to introduce some of my personal and professional backgrounds that have led me to my work. Shown here is a picture of my family. This is my grandfather. He was the acupuncturist and a doctor in an isolated village in western China. He was a one-man healthcare system. He treated everything from internal medicine to gynecology, from external trauma to dental work. And this is my father. He, on the other hand, became an astrophysicist, and he's very proud of his scientific training. In my career, I first followed my father's footprints. After college in China, I came to the United States to pursue a PhD in molecular biology and a master's in biostatistics. After that, I worked as a data scientist in pharmaceutical industries. But it was in my second career that I dived back and joined with my grandfather's path. I became an acupuncturist myself, and I practiced Taoist cultivation. 6 years ago, in a workshop, a teacher came to me and asked, Spring, what if Earth asked you to perform acupuncture on her body? What would you do? In that moment, I was blown away. My soul resonated so deeply with that question. Since then, I followed a life path guided by this exploration. This path has taken me away from the profession of healthcare and landed me in the field of leadership development and cultural consulting in organizations. Today, I want to present to you the principle of resonance. Resonance as a phenomena between individual human being and the field of interbeing. I want to explore with you how resonance will enable us to develop the kind of agencies necessary in facilitating the birthing of a new civilization that is emerging through our time. Let's look at this question. Considering issues associated with climate change, which resource is most fundamental to a sustainable and a thriving civilization? You might be quite familiar with the first four natural resources: water, soil, energy, and food. Notice that the first four resources are all subjects of the Western scientific framework. But human attention as a natural resource? What does that mean? Today, I'd like to invite you to consider that human attention is just another form of natural resource, as important as the other four natural resources. It is a crucial element weaving through the fabric of ecosystem around us. And if we consider human attention as another form of resource, we'll notice that human attention also suffers from the kind of environmental issues parallel with what we observe from the natural world. Let's take a look. Let's consider soil. In our natural environment, soil is severely degraded by the industrialized farming practices. What is the soil in human attention field? What's equivalent to the soil in human attention is our embodied wisdom, our connection with ancestral lineage and biological intelligence. Because of our culture has a habit of emphasizing and privileging rational and intellectual processes, we have developed a lot of habit and pattern that subjugate the soil in our attention. so that we damaged our embodied wisdom and intelligence and biological intelligence. There's so much we need to learn about how to incorporate our soil, the embodied wisdom, our ancestral connection, into activities such as governance, organizational skills, and leadership development. Now let's look at water. In our environment, the waterways, rivers, and oceans are heavily polluted by the waste products. In our attentional field, the equivalent to water is our emotion and feeling. And in our emotional sphere, we have developed a tremendous amount of unconscious and unprocessed emotional blockage and trauma. They degrade the quality of attention and compromise the depths of collaboration and intimacy we establish with our fellow human being. The societal symptom of water pollution in our attention field manifests as the increased rate of suicide, depression, anxiety, and violence. In our relationship with the natural environment, we're struggling to switching from the fossil fuel economy to a more sustainable energy source. Now, what is the solar power in human attention? What's equivalent to the solar power in human attention field is the spontaneous expression of creativity and the inherent trust of a larger web of life around us. Now, when it comes to facing the issues of climate change, both of these, creativity and inherent trust, run extremely short. This shows us that collectively we have disconnected from our higher consciousness source. The issue that has caused the most attention around the climate change is carbon. So what is the equivalent of carbon in our human attention field? Carbon energy in human attention is the activity of production and consumption. You can see that our carbonized atmosphere is a metaphor of the excessive productive and consumption activity in our human attention. And underneath that is our habit of obsessive rational process and cluttered thought products. Just look at our internet. It's flooded with information that is not corroborated with facts and evidence. Another example is that if you have experienced to be part of a sizable organization, you might have the experience of being frustrated with the large amount of verbal communications that is ineffective. These are all symptoms of our very carbonated human attention. That also affects our response to climate change. I've observed a form of disintegrated activism that so much focused on obsessive doing that is disconnected from our grounded embodied wisdom and to higher consciousness source. I want to suggest that a carbonated human field cannot effectively decarbonate Earth's atmosphere. In order to come together as a collective, organizing ourselves more effectively, elegantly, and in an embodied way, so that we can creatively respond to the issues with climate change, we need to understand how can we manage the human attention field in a sustainable way. As I have mentioned before, the focus of Western science has been the external material world. It leads to what I call the hard science. A very important assumption of hard science is that the subject we study are not affected significantly by our own conscious and unconscious activity. Western science is very powerful. And the modern physics has developed to a point that it has realized that the portion of the physical world that can be explained by current scientific framework only accounts for 5% of the total energy and matter in the universe. This means that 95% of the energy and the material that we're living in, swimming in, inhaling and breathing, we have no clue about what they are. Now, in order to engage with human attention as a natural resource, we need a completely different conceptual framework and thought habit. This is the strength of Eastern holistic paradigm and Eastern intellectual tradition. The Eastern intellectual tradition leads to what I call the soft science. Soft science presumes an energy field generated by conscious and unconscious activities. This leads us to be open to the matter and energy in the 95% of the domain that we do not know. Hard science in the West and the soft science in the East anchors very different beliefs and life practices about our body. The hard science describes body as an anatomic structure made with organic materials, as how Western medicine describes. The body is primarily seen through the lens of physical and chemical processes that maintain the physiological function. The soft science sees the body as a vehicle for an informational field. The concept of qi from Taoist and Chinese medicine practice points to the energy running through this field. The qi of a person serves as a medium through which the person interacts and exchanges information with the outside world. Now, it's not that one of these beliefs is right and wrong. Both are right. Both are part of a bigger truth. The question is, how can we integrate these two very different perspectives? What does it mean to utilize our body, our energy as a device to interact and exchange information with the outside world? Now let's look at the communication. The modern communication technology, such as the cell phone and the internet, are the pinnacle expression of hard science and the technology associated with hard science. Devices placed at any corner of the world can communicate each other through signals transmitted by electromagnetic field. Resonance is the phenomena of signals of different frequencies working in sync with each other. Resonance lies at the heart of modern communication technology. Now, let's imagine that we replace these devices with human beings. And these are human beings not carrying cell phone and laptop. Can you imagine that you are connected to an informational field, not through a device, but through your own very body, your presence, the energy associated with your body? I call this informational network the interbeing. Interbeing is influenced by conscious and unconscious activities. And through the informational network of interbeing, we are not only connected with human life forms, but also non-human life forms, ecosystems, and possibly the body of Gaia herself. Now, Eastern intellectual traditions does not focus on explaining what this informational field is or what qi is. Instead, it provides a wealth of information about how to cultivate the kind of awareness pathways that allow us to operate with the principle of resonance. With the principle of resonance, we can establish a direct, clear communication between our individual psyche and the field of interbeing. Now I'd like to invite you in another self-assessment. On the left here is a communication mode between a person and an outside world through what I call the hard technology, such as social media, TV, newspaper, magazine, and book. On the right is a mode of communication between a person and the outside world through organic technology or soft technology. And that include our instinctual impulses, kinesthetic awarenesses, sensory apparatus, feeling, emotion, and energetic perception. Now you can gauge in your communication with the world where you are on this continuum. And probably most importantly, how do we integrate the information from the hard and the soft technology? In the earlier forms of human civilization, our ancestors did communicate each other largely through the organic technology. However, the communication is usually restricted among a group in a particular geographic location or within a monocultural context, such as within a family, tribe, village, or ethnic group. In the last 300 years, the humanity has really taken off on a path of material development. Now, this path has led us to build this magnificent communication network around the globe. However, we also paid a very hefty price. Our conscious mind became disintegrated and disconnected from the part of our nervous system that naturally resonate with the field of interbeing. Now, that doesn't mean that our nervous system no longer resonate with interbeing anymore. It means that our conscious mind stopped processing this information consciously. I believe that eco-trauma is associated with the rising instance of mental disorder. The eco-trauma is related with all the environmental issues in our human attention field, as I mentioned earlier, the subjugation of our embodied wisdom and biological intelligence, the pollution of our emotional and feeling, the disconnection from the higher consciousness, and the overproduction and obsessive doing energy. As painful and traumatizing as this actually presents an opportunity for evolution. We now have the opportunity to reestablish the network of resonance with the interbeing on a global scale. Now, this has never been possible before in our known history. Before, our resonance with the interbeing has always been restricted to a particular ethnic group or monocultural context. Now we have the opportunity to resonate with the interbeing on a global scale with people from different cultures. At the Resonance Path Institute, we have developed a system to facilitate this evolution. The system is called the Resonance Code. Shown here is the schematic representation of the architecture of psyche uncovered by the Resonance Code. This architecture has 3 layers. These are three planes where our attention can be directed to. The middle plane is centered around intellectual and rational processes. Most of our current organizational bodies, such as government, corporate, nonprofit organizations, are primarily organized through activities at the middle plane. Now you can see that the middle plane is surrounded by a unified field between what I call the light and the dense plane. On the dense plane is our somatic processes, such as instinctual impulses, senses, and the raw emotional response. The social entities such as family, tribe, ethnic group, in their traditional forms, tend to be organized around activities on the dense plane. The light plane lies our cognitive functions that operate through archetypal patterns and abstract symbols. Activities such as art and math all have to do with this type of cognitive functions. So now, as we evolve, the question is how can we transcend from our organizations centered around the dense plane activity or the middle plane activity and learn to develop light plane technology and discover new ways to organize ourselves. I want to point out that developing light plane technology does not mean that we leave behind the middle and the dense plane. Instead, it means that we will utilize the knowledge on the light plane to help us to integrate. These 3 planes are not separate, they are on a whole, they are a unit. There are energy pathways that circulate through and maintain it as a sustainable system. I want to point your attention to this technology called binary coding. What makes the modern communication possible is the technology of binary coding. With that, the software engineers can represent the vast amount of visual and auditory information and transmitted through electromagnetic signals. Resonance code, the system we develop at our institute, also use binary coding to represent information of our inner terrain of psyche. At the heart of resonance code is this set of 6-digit binary code that we call the hexagrams. The coding is represented by either a solid or a broken line. There are 64 of these kind of patterns, each one of these patterns pointing to a particular energetic signature in the field of interbeing. Now, some of you may recognize that these hexagrams are derived from a very ancient wisdom called I Ching, the Book of Change. The Book of Change is one of Earth's earliest books, and I Ching had been used as a divination method in ancient China. Resonance code had updated the source code of I Ching into modern context and make it compatible with the global and diverse culture we're living in today. Through practice, one can use these hexagrams as a tool to capture the energies in the interbeing, just like one used the solar panel to capture the solar powers around us. So what will light plane technology enable us to do? Well, first of all, I want to say it does not promise certainty and stability. Instead, what it does is it enables us to rewire our neurological pathways so that we can embrace uncertainty and dance with complexity. In doing so, our cognitive and rational mind continue to grow and evolve beyond the limitations of current scientific framework. It also allows us to engage chaos as the fertile soil of creativity so that we no longer fear it. Even though light plane technology is a set of abstract symbols, it is actually designed to allow us to be more grounded, more embodied, and more enlivened. Light plane technology will enable us to develop light plane capacities such as imagination, intuition, compassion, and the ability to tap into synchronicities. Most importantly, it allows us to rebuild an intimate and personal relationship with the global field of interbeing. Particularly associated with climate change, light plane technology will enable us to start understand human attention as an important resource of Earth's ecosystem so that we can protect it. We need to understand that human attention field is a microcosmic template of the climate around us. The light plane technology will empower activists by helping them to integrate the doing, the carbon producing and consumption process with our embodied wisdom, with the emotional energy, and connecting to the higher consciousness source. At the Resonance Path Institute, we have formed the research lab around the resonance code. Resonance Code Research Lab consists of researchers spreading among North America, Eastern and Western Europe. We are a diverse multicultural group, and we're actively researching how to utilize light plane technology to organize ourselves more effectively and elegantly. If you are interested in our work, I welcome you to check out the new book that I have just finished with my co-authors, Joseph Friedman and Joe Shirley. There are also other ways to engage. If you are curious how to use the psyche as a device to resonate with the interbeing, I welcome you to check out a process we designed called field tuning, and you can experiment that with your own experience. Feeling work is a process developed by my partner, Joe Shirley. Feeling is the water energy in our human attention. Doing feeling work is equivalent of cleaning up the waste product in the vast ocean of emotion in ourself. And in the fall of 2019, we'll open up a new course, The Voyage into the Unknown. For more information, please check out our website. Thank you very much for listening. I look forward to hearing back from you.